Hello and welcome to my channel. What I'm going to be doing as of now is I'm starting a new series called Basics of Programming. In this series, I am pretty much assuming that you are an absolute beginner. So if you're not an absolute beginner, this is probably not the series for you. Mainly because I'll be describing things that are really simple. Like this video is going to be on variables and how they work and how you make them and the different types and inserting data into them and displaying and using that data. I will be doing this in C++, so you're also going to be getting some information on C++ console. So it won't be like a forms or anything like that, but anyways, with all that out of the way, we should probably start. Now, if you're using, what is it called? Oh yeah, right there, dev C++. You're going to want to set up your what is it called? Your workspace as so. You want to have their pound symbol include with IOStream, pound symbol include with bits slash / stdc++.h, have the using namespace, and have int main, both parentheses, and the curly brackets. That will pretty much set up the workspace so it can actually work correctly. If you're using something like Visual Studio, which I do plan on getting eventually, I'm just being lazy, but it should set it up for you on its own, but I haven't actually done C++ in Visual Studio, so I'm not sure, but I'm fairly confident that it does. Anyways, what are variables? Well, if you're at a stage in which you've already taken like algebra and whatnot, you already know variables are pretty much something that just holds data. So like x equals 5, for example. If you haven't had algebra yet, then you probably don't know what a variable is, in which it's exactly what I just explained. It's a thing that holds data, which I will be showing here in a second. Now, what I'm going to do here, actually what I'm doing right now is making a comment. Putting these two forward slashes is telling the computer that this text is here pretty much just for the programmer. So whenever you put these two forward slashes, anything that follows after it is the computer's not going to read it as code. Anything under it, the computer will then read as code, but anything next to this, these two forward slashes, is not going to be read as code. So it's good for categorizing and whatnot. Anyways, so we're going to be creating some variables, and there are different types of variables, which I will be going over first. There are several variables. I'm only going to be going over, let's see, I think only 4 as of now. Those 4 are, well, the first one is a string variable. Strings hold pretty much any character. So, slash text, meaning it can hold numbers, it can hold letters. Let's get that out of there. It can hold symbols. It can pretty much hold any of those. The next one is going to be an int, which is short for integer. Integers can hold whole numbers. So, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. I'm going to fix that just because it bugs me. Third one is going to be a float, which can hold decimal type numbers, meaning like 1.5, 2.3, 3.7, 4.9, and so on and so forth. Though there are other variables that can hold decimal decimal numbers, sorry, but I'm going to be sticking with the float for now. And the fourth one is a bool, which is pretty much short for boolean, but we shorten it to bool, just like how integers stands for integer, but we shorten it to int. And what a bool does is holds data that is only true or false. So those are the different type of variables we're going to be going over. So string, integer, float, and a boolean. Alright, so now we're going to continue on, and I'm going to show you how to use them. Now, each programming language can use them differently. I say that because I haven't used every programming language in the world, but I have used quite a few, and all the ones I have used, pretty much you can set it up the same. But so we're gonna set a string first. We're gonna set the string to, well, first you're gonna have to declare, so string. Now we're gonna give this string a name. So we're gonna literally put name, put the equal signs, and then in quotations we put what we want it to equal. So in this case we can put John, and it's just gonna be first name. Now what we're saying is the variable that we called name is a string type variable, meaning it's gonna hold pretty much any character. We want its name to equal the value John. Now with strings we have to put it within these quotations. I like to categorize my variables, and that's just me. Now we're going to make some integers. Our first integer is going to be age, which is going to equal, say, 20. So in this case we're saying the variable age is a integer, and we're setting its value to 20. Now for integers and floats and booleans, we do not need the quotations like we have up here for strings. Now we're gonna do with the boolean. We literally just put bool, and we're gonna name this of age. We're gonna equal this to false. Now we are going to be changing these values, but I'm just setting them up so you can understand it. So like the other ones, the variable of age, it's saying that it's a boolean and its value is false. Now with variable names, you can't have spaces. So if you really want a space, you can just throw like an underscore or a dot in there. But actually a dot probably wouldn't work, but don't have any spaces. So if I were to try, so here, look, I'll compile real quick. Now compiling is just the computer, one, it's also converting it to binary, if I'm not mistaken, and it's also they give you like a log in if your code is wrong. So semicolons here, well, this is for example, semicolons are very important. They pretty much symbolize the end of a code segment. So we're telling the computer this is putting this semicolon here, that it's the end of this line of code. Now if I were to remove that, I'm going to get some errors down here in my compile log. See how it's saying I need a semicolon, and that's because it's not correct. It's a syntax error. So what happened was nothing was displaying because, or none of our code was displaying, because variables are not something that gets displayed. They're hidden in the background and you just call upon them later. Now we don't want these to have specific values because I'm going to be creating like a profiler. You put your name and age, and then it'll tell you if you are of age for whatever it is we're doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually remove this portion, the equals John. We're going to remove that and just put the semicolon right after our variable name. What that is doing is it's telling the computer that we have a variable called name, which is a string, but it has no value. So we will have to give it a value if we want to use it later on, which we're going to do the same thing with these. Alright, so we're all good. Now we're going to actually use these. Now, not only is this the basics of programming, but I'm going to be doing it all in C++, so you're also getting C++ tutorials as well. So now, if you have your namespace set up like mine, your workspace set up like mine, if you type in COUT, or COUT, however you want to pronounce it, put two less than symbols, we'll put these quotations, and two more less than symbols and end L, and then your semicolon. Now what this is doing is, this is pretty much allowing you to write text to the screen, and this end L here is pretty much saying end of the line of code, or the line of text. That's what that L stands for, line. So anything we throw in these quotations is going to show itself. So now if I put hello world and save it, it will print hello world. Let me grab something real quick. See how when I run the program, it does that? It opens and instantly closes. It's doing that because there's nothing telling the computer to stop so it can read it. So what it's pretty much doing is it's loading everything, and then it reads this, and then it skips to the next line, and there's nothing there, so the program closes itself. So we don't even have time to read it. So what we're going to do is, if we type system, open and close parentheses, and a semicolon at the end, inside the parentheses, you put quotations, and put the word pause. Now what this line of code will do, will pause anything that's happening, and it will allow you to actually read the screen. So if I save and run, oh oops, I have to compile first. And there we go. Now if I run, now it allows me to see the text. Okay, so this is a good thing to remember, or your text won't be displayed. Anyways, we're going to get rid of that. I'm going to make our line of text, and in here we're going to have it say enter your name. Now for aesthetics, I'm just going to put a line under this, so now it looks underlined. And if you put your code like this, where it's just the COUT, the COUT is how I'm going to pronounce it, the two less than symbols and in line, and have no quotations or anything like that, exactly how you see it here, it's pretty much just going to make a space. Alright, here I'll show you. Like that. So, if I run the program, you see how the text here, oh by the way, this pause text is because we have pause here, it's just there. See how it's right underneath the line? Well, if we put this line of code right here and run it again, this line of code right here puts a little space in between, it just looks nice. Alright, so now we need them to actually enter a value into one of the variables that we created. So in this instance, we're going to call upon our string, in which is called name. Now when you're calling upon it, you're pretty much telling the computer, use the variable that you have set, and we're going to do something with it. So by putting name like this, it's telling the computer to look for a variable called name. So it's going to look, and it's going to find that name is equal to a string and has no value. So now we're going to assign it a value. So what we're going to do is do sin, CIN, to greater than symbols, and then name. So what this is going to be doing, it's going to be allowing us to give our variable name, which is a string, a value. So you'll see a cursor pop up. Watch, let me run it. Alright, there we go. You see that little cursor? Now we can write stuff. We can type things. That's what this line of code allows us to do. Now whatever we write here will be stored inside of this variable. So if I type in like that, it's going to go on, because after this line of code, when I hit enter, it goes on to the next line of code. So what that pretty much did is when I hit enter, it assigned the value, assigned a value to the variable name. So it's pretty much the equivalent of doing this. It's the equivalent of doing that. It's just you're assigning a variable as you go on. So when as soon as I hit enter, it assigns name, the value, whatever I typed. Okay, that's good. We can get rid of this actually now, because this line of code will actually pause everything for us. So if I compile and run again, see how it pauses it for us, and we just have to write our text. Alright, so good. Now we have the computers, we're allowing ourselves, the user, to input data into the variable. So now we're gonna move on, and we're gonna do system. Instead of putting pause in here, we're gonna put CLS, which stands for clear screen, which you'll see what will happen in a second. Now we're gonna create another text. Enter your age. And I'm aware we didn't use the float variable. We're gonna get to that. Oops. Undo. Actually, yeah, we're gonna underline this again. Now I should have said this at the beginning, but you should follow along with me so you learn, because you get hands-on experience as I'm telling you and teaching you. This time we're going to call upon our age variable. Alright, so from here, this is going to do the exact same thing we did here. It's going to allow us to input a value, and it's going to store it within age. Now, if we were to type in letters into age, it's going to not assign age that. So here, let me run this so I can show you. So right now we are at this portion of the code in which we have to assign our variable name a variable. So I'll put this. Now as soon as I hit enter, it assigned name to equal t. Now you see how the screen cleared and now it's printing enter your age? That's because of this line of code here, which is clear screen. So it cleared the screen of all text and then proceeded and printed this text. And now we have to assign a variable to age. So now if we put, if we did t again, when we hit enter, it's not going to assign t to age. Why, you may ask? Because age is an integer. It's only meant to hold whole numbers. So it's not going to match, because you're right, you're putting text, you're putting characters that aren't numbers. So now, but if we were to put something like 20, now it will assign, it will make age equal 20 because 20 is a whole number. Alright, so we have that, and it's going good. So now, actually, I'll add we'll add the float in. Why am I adding the float in so late? Because I couldn't think of anything to use for float, an example to use for float, but I think I got one. So let's say we're gonna have a money system. Why? Because because we can. So we're gonna put float. We have to give it a name. We'll put money equals, and we'll just put this at 0.00. Oop. Now we're putting it as that is the equivalent of leaving it at nothing, in which we will do. See? Just like the rest. Okay. So now we're going to have it clear screen again. Now you don't have to have it clear the screen, but I'm having it clear the screen just so it looks nice. And we're going to do how much money do you have? Okay, go here. I'm just going to space these out because it looks nice to me. Anyways, so now we're going to call upon the float variable we just created, which is money. Now, why do we need money? I will explain when we get there. Alright, so this is a float, and like I said earlier, it can hold decimal numbers, but I failed to also tell you that it can also hold whole numbers. So it all comes down to the need. So like our age is always a whole number. You go from age 5 to age 6, not age 5 to age 5.5. So we make it an integer because it's unnecessary to have a float which holds decimals, because this number will never hold decimals. But money does have decimals, because obviously you can have $1, but you can also have $1.50 or $1.26, etc., etc. And we're going to create another one to save a little bit of time. I'm just going to copy this, which I do not recommend you doing, because I'm assuming you're a very beginner. I don't recommend copy and pasting, because just repetitively typing it out allows for you to memorize the code easier. And we'll put result. Now I do have, this can get a bit cluttered since it's all just in one straight line of code. Later on in the series I will show how to make things more sectioned out, but for now we're just going to stick to what we have going on now and focusing on variables. So now we have result, and we're not going to be setting a variable. Now we're just going to be showing everything that we have displayed here. So to do that, we're going to put count. And so, like explained before and how you've been seeing, using this will allow you to write text, as you've been witnessing. But if we remove this and we type in name, oh, oops, that's not what I wanted to put. What we're saying is we want the text to be shown. We don't want to insert our own text. We want the text to be whatever this variable is. So in this case, we want it to display the text of the variable name. What is name? Well, name is whatever we declared it to be up here in the code. So if we run the program, we have enter your name. T. We'll have this. And how much money do you have? We'll just put $5. And right here, you see how it says T? That's because we set the variable name to equal T, because we inserted the name T, and that's why it's displaying the name T. So we're going to do that for all of these. actually, yeah. Come on. Age. And money. Okay, so we'll run this, and it will display everything that we have input. So we'll put name, age, amount of money, and as you can see, it displayed. Why the float isn't displaying the amount of money, that is pretty much, I mean, the 0.00 is because 5 is the equivalent to 5.00. I don't know why this space isn't working. There we go. But if we were to put something like so, we would put something like 5.50. Now it's going to show 5.5 because 5.5 is the equivalent to 5.50. You get it. Okay. I'm going to retype this because for whatever reason my computer is acting up and not putting a space there. But as you are seeing, it's just displaying numbers and it's text. It's not giving any context. So say we want to mix text, our own set text, along with the variable. What we do is we're going to put our quotations here, and we'll get rid of name, so don't confuse you. Put our quotations here, and we'll put name, colon, space, put 2 more less than symbols, and then our variable name, or whatever we called our variable. So what this is going to, it's going to display the text name, because that's what we wanted to display, and then show whatever the value name is. So if I run this, 5.35. See how the 5.35 is there, and see how it uses our text and the variable in one sentence. And the reason we put that extra space between the colon and the quotation, it's so we have that space here. If I were to get rid of that space, the name T would be right up next to the colon, and we don't want that because it doesn't look clean. So now we'll do the same thing with these. Age and amount of money. So now if we run the program and we enter the field, now we have it nice and laid out clean. Alright, now we still have a boolean to use here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use something called an if statement. So down here, actually after they hit that, we're going to clear screen. An if statement checks if something is something, do this. So that sounds confusing, but I'll show you. If parentheses age is equal to since it's an integer, we're not going to put these quotations. If age is less than or equal to 18, you're going to hit enter and put curly brackets, one open and one closed. So remember that format. Now these don't have to be down here. Some people like to put their curly brackets like this, where one's up here, one's down here, but I personally do not like it because my OCD, it bugs me. Alright. So now between these curly brackets, it's going, well, the program's going to execute whatever's between these curly brackets if this is true. So if age is less than or equal to 18, actually we're going to put 17, because if they're less than or equal to 17, then do something, because we want 18 and up to be able to continue. So we're just going to have it clear screen and say, you are not of age for this. You're not of age. That's all we'll put. And then we're going to put exit, which means it's going to close the program. So if I run, here we are. So, we're going to put 15. Bam. Now, the age is less than 17, and it's not equal to 17. So we're going to get this text when we hit enter. You're not of age. Now if we come down here and put else, meaning if anything else besides this is met, do it in here. So if age is greater than 17, do anything that's in here. Execute anything that's within these curly brackets. So anything that's not this statement right here. So we'll put system. Actually, we're going to have it check another variable. We're going to see if money is greater than or equal to $15. And to make this look better, what we're going to do is we're going to put a $sign there. So if money is actually less than or greater to $14.99, then we're going to have it clear the screen, and display the text, you don't have enough money. There we go. So now if we run our program, and we'll put, is that 18? And how much money do you have? $13.25. Now, when we hit enter again, or here, I'll show you. It says you don't have enough money. Why? Because it first checks if the age is less than 17. If it is, it's going to say you're not of age. We put 18, meaning it is not this, meaning it's going to go to our else statement. Now inside our else statement, we're going to check to see if money is less than 14.99, in which our money was, because we only import, like, what, 13, I think? So it's saying we do not have enough money. So now, after this, under here, we're going to put another else statement. And we're going to put we'll just put like welcome to the, or we'll just put you've been accepted. Alright, so what this is doing, well, actually, let's break down these if statements again, because they can get confusing. So what we're saying is, if age is less than or equal to 17, we want it to say you're not of age, and then exit the program. If age is anything not less than 17, so 18 and above, it will go to our else statement, in which our else statement checks to see if money is less than or equal to 14.99, in which if it is, it's going to say you don't have enough money because the entry fee is, we'll say 15. Now if it's anything else besides less than or equal to 14.99, it's going to go to our else statement, in which our else statement checks, our else statement says you've been accepted. So if we run our program, now we're going to say name, we're going to put 15, but we do have the money. But we're not of age, so we can't. Now if we run it again, if we put 20 and put $12, it's going to say you do not have enough money because we were of age, but we didn't have enough money. We didn't have $15. But if we run it one more time, put our name, age, we'll put 20, and we'll put $17. When we hit enter, you've been accepted. Why? Because we were above 17 and we had more than $14.99, in which it brought us to this last statement here. You've been accepted, which is the end goal in which we wanted. Now you can compare variables. So say we're going to make another float. We're going to put float fee, and we're going to actually give this a value. So we're going to put 15.00. Now we're going to come down here to our we're going to put 14.99. We're going to come down here, we're going to put fee. So now it's saying if money is less than fee, so if whatever we put in money, say it's $13, is less than whatever fee is, which is $14.99, display this, in which if money was 13, you would get this popping up. You don't have enough money. Now you can do this in many ways. It doesn't have to be exactly like mine. So if money is less than or equal to fee, you can also do if fee is less than or equal to money, or if fee is greater than or equal to, money is greater than or equal to fee, but you would have to change this text for it to make sense. But I just went with this because it's simple and you can understand it. But yeah, we created a very small program, which it looks like a lot of code, but it's really not. It's mainly just filler text and everything like that. But you pretty much, I hope that now you have an understanding of how variables work, and how these variables, string, integer, boolean, and float, and how they work. I try to make it simple and not overcomplicate it, but I also want to make a program with you guys so you can also see how you can use it in an actual program. But yeah, that's the whole program. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.